The second materials and resources prerequisite is ongoing purchasing and waste policy. And this prerequisite applies to the following categories. The intent is to reduce the environmental harm from materials purchased, used and disposed of in the operations with buildings. Building owners and operators purchase high volume of supplies whose environmental and human health consequences extend from extraction and manufacturing to use and disposal. Landfill waste produces greenhouse gases such as methane and can contaminate soil and groundwater with hazardous substances. Paper is the largest single category of municipal solid waste in the US, representing 28%. And waste paper is generated in particularly high quantities by office buildings. And this prerequisite requires that the project institutes a policy for typical purchases for ongoing operations. And the implementation is routed to the corresponding credit, MR credit purchasing ongoing. This credit further promotes waste stream audits. It helps building managers identify opportunities for source reduction, reuse, recycling, and composting to decrease the quantity of waste disposed of through incineration or landfill. Now let's have a look at the requirements. For the establishment period, for all project types, have in place an environmental preferred purchasing policy, or EPP, for projects purchased during regular operation of the building. And these include, at a minimum, the ongoing purchases, which means the 5 most purchased product categories based on total annual purchases: paper, toner cartridges, binders, battery and desk accessories, lamps, and food. For durable good purchases, it includes the office equipment, appliances, and audiovisual equipment, as well electrical power equipment. And the policy should address the criteria in the following credits: materials and resources credit, purchasing ongoing, and materials resources credit, purchasing lamps. And the policy must cover at least those product purchases within the building and site management control. Now for solid waste management, establish storage location for recyclable materials, including mixed paper, corrugated cardboard, glass, plastics, and metals. And establish safe storage area for batteries and mercury-containing lamps. And again, have in place an environmentally preferable solid waste management policy that addresses reuse, recycling, and/or composting of products purchased during regular operations of the building. And this could include, at a minimum, for ongoing waste, the 5 most purchased product categories based on the total annual purchases, and food. This is required for schools and hospitality only. For durable goods waste, provide office equipment, appliances and audiovisual equipment, and electrical power equipment. And the last category, hazardous waste, so safe disposal of batteries and lamp. And again, the policy must cover at least those product purchases within the building and site management control. Now for retail. In addition to the requirements that we mentioned, retail projects should also promote environmental responsible sourcing of retail merchandise through one of the following options. Option 1, supply chain survey. Option 2, supply chain education program for retail employees and/or retail tenant representatives. Option 3, supply chain environmental criteria list. And lastly, option 4, sustainable purchasing education for customers. Let's look at each of them individually. So option number 1, supply chain survey. Establish a supply chain survey. The survey should collect information from each supplier regarding the following: social equity practices, energy and carbon reduction measures, material selection practices for products, packaging and distribution, waste reduction and waste management measures, and human health protection measures. Now option 2, supply chain education program for retail employees and/or retail tenant representatives. Here, establish a program to inform employees and tenants engaged in merchandise purchasing, packaging, and distribution about environmentally preferable supply chain strategies. And include the following in the education program: environmental best practices for supply chain decisions, resource for additional information, and internal context for more information. Now, option number 3, supply chain environmental criteria list. Here, establish criteria for retail products encouraging an environmental preferable supply chain strategy, addressing the following: purchasing, materials handling and packaging, inventory, materials recovering during manufacturing, waste disposal, and product take back. Now for option number 4, sustainable purchasing education for customers. Here, install an educational program display for customers displaying environmental initiatives that the store has implemented. And the education display should incorporate information that includes the supply chain environmental criteria listed in option 3. Now for the performance period, maintain a high-performing solid waste management program by conducting a waste stream audit of ongoing consumer at least once every 5 years, or by diverting 75% of ongoing waste and achieving materials and research credit solid waste management ongoing. In terms of the documentation, for all projects, provide an environmentally preferable purchasing policy. Provide a floor and site plan, identifying recycling storage areas. Provide the waste stream audit report and the solid waste management policy. Well, if this project is a retail project, then depending on the option, you have a few things to comply with. So for option 1, also provide a sample survey for suppliers, description of survey procedures. For option number 2, the educational curriculum and the description of the delivery method. For option number 3, supply chain environmental criteria list, including all required criteria and implementation plan. And then for the last option, option 4, documentation of the educational display and description of information presented, including all required supply chain environmental criteria. For this credit, exemplary performance is not available.